Hey, how you doing? It's the first of my videos and Learning for the Streets, Learning from the Streets channel. And some people do those videos where they sit in a lovely cosy office and talk to the camera, and it's great, and they put the stuff in front of the camera and it's all nice and well lit. Whereas Learning for the Streets, well, this is all about detached youth work, and so, well, put it this way, it wouldn't really be right to do it in an office, would it? So here I am. It's dark, it's pretty cold, but it's not that cold. Even like there's some ice on the pavement, so I'm being really careful about where I walk, but I'm now walking along a pavement in the dark, talking to my phone, just so you can get an idea of what detached youth work's all about. But I'm just giving it a go to see what it's like. So I'm wrapped up, I've got a scarf, hat, gloves and all the rest of it, though in a minute I reckon my phone is going to die, but I thought I'd give it a go now. Anyway, welcome to Learning for the Streets. I'm James Ballantyne. You'll know me from my other website, probably called Learning from the Streets, and this is me talking a bit about detached youth work. I thought for this first one, while I get used to all of this, I'd play it a little bit safe and just talk a little bit about detached youth work from the very beginning and what it's about and what it's like. Recently you'll have seen that I put out 35 things that set you apart as a detached youth worker. So some of the things on there that you would pretty much every detached youth worker is likely to experience, and I've got a list of some of those with me tonight, and I may do some of them. I'm going to stop just now. Yeah, so detached youth work, what it's all about, and a little bit about how I've done detached work over the last 15 years. Some of that, as I said, you'll pick up on the blog, but I thought I'd film myself and give you an idea a bit about what detached youth work's about, and do a little video about it. So some of the things that I think detached youth work is, one of the things you need to get really thick skin. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's one of those things that, do you know what, you sometimes take great delight in not being told to F off. When a young person or a group of young people let you have a bit of a conversation and chat and banter, do you know what, at times that's amazing, but other times you're just pleased not to have been told to F off. It doesn't happen very often, but it's always a good thing when that happens. The other thing, a bit like now, it's pretty cold out here, so you need to learn about getting enough layers and keeping your feet warm and your hands warm and your face warm, because it's really cold. You're standing around talking to young people, it can be really, really cold, but they want to stand around and talk to you, usually at the most inappropriate times, and actually you take it because they're cold, because you might be wearing it, you might be wearing all those thermal gear, and you get used to wearing loads of layers, and they might be standing there in a t-shirt and a pair of trousers and jeans, and that's about it. So they're probably colder than you, but that's the time they want to have the conversation. So they're two of the things about detached work. Maybe getting used to the weather's another one. Other things about detached youth work, you get to see something real. So even now I'm walking around, it's not very busy, but you do get to sense what the real issues are and what's really going on in every community, even from the point of view of just walking around of an evening. That's about what it's about. One of the things that you have to really be careful of on detached is working out where your duty of care is, and I know that's a really big thing, but realistically, how responsible are you for the young people that you see? One of the times I remember is when you're working with a whole load of young people and they have been drinking and all the rest of it, and they start running around on the road, running around and jumping up and down in the traffic lights, and you're panicking and you're wondering what responsibility do you have because you're with them, but you haven't really signed any consent forms or anything like that. So there's loads of grey areas on detached, and that's one of them. It's just working out and getting some kind of reasonable way of thinking about the duty of care that you have for the young people that you connect with. That's a really big thing, but it's worth kind of delving into that in a really, really important way, so that you know where you stand when things go wrong. Yes, you can do risk assessments, and yes, you can do all of that, but ultimately working out whether you've got duty of care for young people that you're with in a public space and where your responsibility lies, it's a really important thing. We'll probably come back to cover that another time. One of the big questions that I'm often asked is, what kind of equipment do you take with you? So when you're on detached and you're going out and you take a bag and you go, well, what do I take with me? I think I'll do a proper video about that another time, but what do you put in the bag? Do you take games equipment, card games? Do you take first aid kit, bottles of water, hats, gloves, policies, confidentiality policies, details of all the other agencies that young people can ring? You could probably take all of those things, but soon your bag's going to start weighing fairly heavy, and if you're going to walk around an estate or walk around the city centre for quite a while, it's going to get pretty heavy and pretty tiring very quickly. And also, how much of that stuff do you ever use? And another thing, if you get all those games out, or football or frisbee or something like that, what happens when that starts getting messed around with? All of a sudden you're worrying about the stuff, and if you're there to have conversation, can you still have that conversation? Because you're just trying to get your football back, or get the frisbee back, or the frisbee's caused some harm, something like that. Does that make it more complicated? Well, maybe, but it's worth thinking about, what do you take in your bag? Because actually, if you start taking stuff in your bag, then every time you go out, the young people are going to want that. They're going to go, oh, can we have some water, or have you got some gloves, or have you got a hat? And it's really useful to have those things, but at other times it's like, well, you just get known for having those things. So the other thing you get good at doing is walking in the light, something I'm not doing very well now. But when it is dark, you kind of stay in the light a little bit, because then that's where young people come and speak to you, or where young people are going to chat. They're not going to speak to you in the dark if you don't know them. So you need to get to a space where it is light, and not too dangerous and not too dingy. And like now, you need to know where you are. You need to know where the escape routes are. You need to know how the exit points. It's really important. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck. So it's really important to make sure that you know where you are in the estate, or in the community centre, or in the city centre, so that you know how to get out of it when you need to. Right, I'm going to stop here because it seems quite a nice place to stop. There's a bit of a light behind me. It's pretty cool. Guess one of the other things you get used to is wander around in the dark, and it doesn't really faze you anymore. So when you go out in the evenings and you do detached, other times when you're out in the evening, it doesn't really bother you that you're out and about. It don't really matter that much. You're not really worried, you're not really scared. So you just get confident being out here, maybe too confident enough that you're okay walking around in an area that you don't know that well, speaking to yourself on the camera. But hey, that's a whole other story. One of the other things about detached is you get mistaken for everybody else, don't you? But I guess that's not unlike the rest of youth work in a way. Who are you? The police, social workers, teachers, and often young people just want to know, who is it you're going to tell on if they get into bother? Who are you working for? Who do you report to? What's that all about? You know, if they start messing up, who are you going to tell? That's kind of what they want to know. They really want to know is, can they trust you? Can they trust you with information? Can they trust you with their lives? Can they trust you with the questions they have about how they think they're doing and what their lives are all about? So that's why they ask, but they do ask all the time. Are you for real? Who are you for? Who are you against? And sometimes they test that as well, because they start giving you stuff. So you get to know young people and they start giving you stuff or offering stuff. And yeah, it's great. You know, you have to think, well, isn't it amazing that those young people who don't really normally speak to me start offering me chips or giving me sweets and things like that. Well, they don't give you sweets, they might offer you them, or even a chip. But you have to be careful. What's that all about? Are they trying to fob you off? Are they trying to win you over? Trying to get you to be on their side? Well, you can't be on their side, but it's sometimes great to have that acceptance in their group. And I guess the last one for tonight is that we've often complained that it's a quiet night and a busy night isn't busy enough. Maybe we're never satisfied as detached youth workers. Maybe we want the perfect night with the great conversations, but that maybe only happened last week. But hey, every night's special, every night's different, and that's what detached youth work's all about, isn't it? A bit unpredictable. Hey, anyway, that's maybe it for tonight. First one over. Speak to you soon. Bye.